Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of the Burning Desire Show. And today I'm joined by, I was going to say Philip N, but it's actually Dr. Philip N in this occasion.
I guess so. I guess that's the brand now, Dr. Phil. That's
Right,
the
right. Got those
yeah,
pearly whites on display, you know how it is.
that's
I got
it.
my
That's it.
Rolex on, you got the pearly whites. It's all good.
That's it. That's my Rolex at the moment. My pearly whites.
So yeah, we
So
were talking just in like the little pre-recording about kind of how I like to always start with, the Steve Jobs quote, you can't get dots going forwards, only backwards. And then you were just about to get into like where it all started, I guess, with where you're at now.
yeah, so I suppose the where it all started for me was actually deciding what I was going to do, and my dad's a dentist as well, so and but that what actually meant is that my mum never actually wanted me to do dentistry. She was kind of like, well, I've seen how hard it is. I want you to do something different. So that was thought about, but I was always better at like sciences and art. So it kind of made sense in the end. My dad he wasn't like necessarily pushing me, but it was like, it's a good career. And the the fact that my strengths married up with what could potentially be a good career, it was like in the end I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. But obviously it was never going to be that easy. I At school, I remember my biology teacher telling me like I should even bother trying to get in. I just want to get in. And I think that's that just initiates a spark. I think you can react to that in two ways. You can either think, okay, he's right, I'm not going to do this, or you can think, right, I'm going to prove this person wrong. So that's what it was for me. I guess in the final years of sixth form, I was like also socializing as well and stuff like that. So, and being a little bit of a nuisance at times, probably at school. So that's probably why he was like trying to put me down a bit,
Right, right, right.
because he was probably like, well, this guy's a bit of, he thinks he's this, thinks he's that. I was never always confident, but I became more confident as school went on into sixth form. And I think it happens a lot with teachers. Like they want to try and put you down sometimes. It's a weird thing.
I think there's an element of that. I mean, it's interesting. Like when you say what kind of age were you when you first thought to yourself, oh, like the career of dentistry seems like a good option for me? And again, back to your father being a dentist, like was that was that in your mind that you looked at his career, what he'd achieved, whatever, and be like, oh, I kind of fancy that, or like how did that come to be?
It wasn't necessarily looking at his career. Like I said, my dad didn't have the biggest influence on my decision,
Right.
but he was like, it's a good career. I didn't really have that much of an idea of what it was about. And dentistry then, let's say, how long ago was that? Like 20 years ago? Maybe no, maybe not that long.
15 maybe.
Maybe 15.
Yeah.
It's so different to what it is now. Anyway, it's like
Mm.
chalk and cheese. So we had no idea it was going to end up being like it is now. So it was more a case of, okay, what are you like, what are your strengths, what you're good at, and
Okay.
then what career is going to be good
I
for
see.
you. It was kind of like that more.
Right.
That's when, yeah, I started to make that decision. But I was I was always doing all right academically. I could get the grades. I was on the on the cusp of getting like my three A's to get in
Mm.
at A level, and that was like very much touch and go. Um, but I didn't get into dental school first time anyway.
Interesting. So what were your three subjects? Did you presumably you have to study certain things with dentistry, right?
Yeah, so you have to do maths. I think you have to do maths and biology, and you have to get an A, and then you have to get an A in something else. So I did
Right.
chemistry, and then I did another AS level. But as long as you get three A's at the
Yeah.
time, it was enough. Now it's actually two A's and an A star,
Right.
and it's interesting because now it's such a practical job, but it's becoming like so academic.
Mm.
They are favouring people who are more academic rather than people who are a bit more practical, and it's kind of changing who's becoming a dentist, if that makes sense.
That does make it. Go back to something that I picked up on where you said your first time applying, you applied for a bunch of universities, I guess, and just wasn't accepted by any of them.
Yeah, yeah, literally. So that was when I had like a conditional offer. So I hadn't
Right.
had my A levels yet, and I just didn't have enough work experience. Like a lot of getting into uni, then a lot of it was based around showing how much passion you had for it before you even started.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone does at that point. You just kind of want to get into uni and you want to kind of show as much as you can. But I didn't really have that much in the bank, so I didn't get that disheartened by it. I basically took the year off, and I remember I was on job seekers allowance for a bit. And I was like, because I couldn't find a job, and I was like, this is
How was that? 'Cause it's really interesting you mentioned that, because I go back to, went to the same school, right? I remember going to being in a business lesson, right? And the teacher was saying, "Oh, you know, we're talking about welfare and this what now benefits, what now welfare, what's benefits now, same thing." And he made a point. He's like, "Look, you know, if I ever fell on hard times," this is him speaking, he was like, "I would have no issue, you know, taking welfare because I've paid all my life, you know, taxes, national insurance, what have you. So, you know, if I'm fall on hard times or need the assistance, then I've no shame in that." And I remember all the kids. Now, obviously, the kids are all like, we're all like middle upper class kids, right? And everyone's like scoffing at the idea that someone should be on welfare. But the fact of the matter is, he's right. Like, you know, if you're in a positions where that is something that you need, and I think, you know, COVID taught people that the most. You know, all those people that would never ever dream of like accepting assistance, or something like, "Oh, please give me some, please give me some." So,
yeah.
but how was that? That must be quite crushing though at the time, though, like to have to.
I think because I was young and like I didn't, I wasn't. I'm not necessarily someone that gets embarrassed too easily. I think
That's
someone
good.
that can post videos about themselves, like
That's true.
singing and dancing on Instagram,
That's true.
doesn't get embarrassed. So I never really got embarrassed about things like that. But I mean, I can't really say much about it because I used to get like 40 quid a week and used to spend it going out on a Tuesday night to Stupid Tuesdays at Tiger every week. So so yeah, I was kind of messing around for a bit, but at the same time, like I just finished a 5-year degree,
True.
probably one of the hardest degrees you could do. So I wasn't like beating myself up because I was pretty like proud of what I'd kind of achieved anyway.
You just skipped by. So you sorry, I was confused. I thought you said the year you took out was when you didn't get the offers from.
Sorry, yeah. Sorry, I got confused. Yeah, so it was before. I don't know why I just said that. I was probably referring to the fact that it was the A levels more.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just confused myself. Yeah, so it was more the A levels, where you know worked hard. I've got the A levels that I wanted. Still pretty proud of myself.
Yep.
But I did want to find a job, and my main aim was just like, right, I want to go traveling.
Fair.
So so basically, what then happened was eventually Ben Johnson got in touch with me, and he basically he said that his dad like had a job for me at Kuka, the boiling water tap company.
Yeah.
So so I ended up working there for like 9 months, and yeah, that was so good for me because like all I'd ever known is academics. I'd never really had a job before, and through that I developed like communication skills, sales skills, organizational skills, all these different things. My role was like, I mean, it was like a baby then compared to what it is now, Kuka. But my role was like a little bit of sales, but also like packaging and parceling like small parts and things to send out to customers and taps and things like that.
Yep.
So that was really good. And Stephen, Ben's dad was a very fun, good boss to work for. And we're still like in touch and friends now.
That's great.
Which is cool.
Where did you go traveling?
Say again.
Where did you go traveling? Sorry, after
Oh
that.
yeah, so I did 2 months. So I went to did the like Southeast Asia circuit, Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, um, and yeah, it was just fun. Just went on my own. Well, for most of it
That's
went on
cool.
my own, and then I felt like I got it out of my system very much. I was lucky enough to carry on traveling. To be fair, after that, every year at uni,
Wow.
um, because I managed to save my student loan for it,
Oh wow.
which was pretty cool. But yeah, that was a really good experience.
So you do you're traveling at the same time. Are you trying to apply for the following year to get into dentistry school? I guess.
Yeah, so exactly. I was always keen on doing dentistry, even though I did really like hookah. I knew like I knew deep down that I still really wanted to go for that. So I ended up applying again. I wanted to go to Leeds, but um, I ended up going to Birmingham. So what actually happened was, aside from the job I was doing, I did some work experience in like a dental lab for a month, like like making like a crown and like different things that you like put into like the patient's mouth, that kind of stuff. And then I forgot about this actually. I did 2 weeks in India, like work
Wow.
experience in dentistry. That was that was crazy.
How did that come about?
Well, it was like between me and my dad, we were looking to find things that were going to boost our CV and
Oh,
something
okay.
unique that was going to stand out and what no one else might have done. So we found this company, Projects Abroad, and you basically go out for 2 weeks and you do like Monday to Friday in this like setting, whatever you want to do. And then on the weekends, like you do some trips like with whoever you're living with. Yeah, like
Wow.
you live in like a local's house, and it was like in the most rural part of India. It's like
Wow.
a
That's
proper rural
incredible, man.
experience. Yeah, I remember like getting the bus, and it was like 0.1 of a penny to get on the bus. Like I don't know how many rupees it was, but
Pretty interesting that like a couple of the themes running through this is like the perseverance, determination, and like you being able to like do things on your own volition, like the traveling by yourself, the still having that belief that even though it didn't work out the first time you applied, that like you would just enhance what you were doing and go again. Because a lot of people just throw the towel in right at that point, like, okay, fair enough, like I'll have to do some other degree that I'm not going to be a dentist now, right?
mm.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah, again, I think it circles back to that teacher telling me you're not going to get in. And it kind of
Did you
stuck with
genuinely
me.
think about that quite a bit? That was, or was it subconscious at that point?
I think it was subconscious, but like the fact that I still remember that conversation just shows how influential that's actually been
Super
in
interesting.
me, like doing everything. Like I still, and the flip side of that is that I'm never satisfied. So I'm
Yeah.
always wanting to take it to the next level, whatever, which is good, but it's also means that I struggle to be present sometimes.
Yeah. I've had this exact kind of battle for a long time, and the way I look at it is well, it's kind of there's three things that I look at. I talk about this quite a bit. There's the Mark Manson who wrote So Long Not Giving a Fuck, and he talks about being
Mm,
very selective about things you care about. Right, that's one.
mm.
Second thing is Brene
There was a
Brown.
Netflix show on that, wasn't there?
Yes, there was, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's a Brene Brown who's just like she's an academic effectively in human psyche and psychology and stuff, and studied all these people. And she was saying, which I really like, is you can't selectively minimize emotions. In other words, if you try and switch off the fact that you care about improving whatever else, that will then mean other things, that you want to enjoy the happiness and all the rest of it. But the one that's most relevant is probably the Buddhist principle of if you're trying to like fight against that feeling of I want to do better and what have you and not satisfied,
Mm.
that fighting against it, like that stress cause is probably more of a bigger emotion than the emotion itself. So if you just go like I look at it like this, I've every day, I'm just like, could have done more today. And I'm like, all right, like I just try and turn it into like, all right, tomorrow we'll go again. Like I know it's not as simple as that, but that's how I kind of try and utilize that element rather than being a negative, be like, right, I can't change it. I know every day that's going to happen at some point in my day.
Mm.
Oh, I could have done that. I could have done that, deal in my world or what have you, or could have done that better, or maybe I shouldn't have done that. And it's like, all right, we'll try again tomorrow. Because otherwise, you're just going to forever be, you know what I mean, beating yourself up for no benefits. I guess it's difficult, but I try and like flip it a bit. Anyway, back
Yeah,
to
that's good. It's good mentality to have, because you can end up beating yourself up about it. Sure.
yeah. As I say, like I think again, it's human nature. You're gonna, if you're that sort of person, which I can tell you are, and I am, like it's gonna have an impact, right? And as I say, just look at that as like that's probably the reason you are successful. Like one of the biggest reasons you are successful. So like, as much as you don't want to have it, like it's kind of really important for your personality to like allow you to do what you do. Is how I would.
I've got a whiteboard next to me right now, and I'm writing down my goals for 2024.
Nice.
And do this.
Nice, man. That's great. That's great.
It's pretty jokes.
But it's interesting because like at that very point where you didn't get the grades in whatever year it was after A levels, like as I say, like the decision, which is not a simple decision, but is a decision to go, right, I'm going to go again and get into this dentistry school. Like that changes your entire life. Like, and that's who I forget is like small decisions, which that is not one decision, can change the entire direct trajectory. Because you could have easily sat here and been a really senior in Cooker now, that's obviously a very successful company, and that dentistry thing never happened. Which is no one's better or worse. I'm just saying it's just interesting how these small things that we do make such a humongous difference in the direction of travel that we end up kind of going in. Something interesting for me is I don't think people know about this or know much about this other than people that studied dentistry. Like what, in that 5 years, like what are you actually learning other than the obvious? Like how does it?
Yeah. That is a really good question. Because like I think what people don't understand about like being a dentist is you're essentially like becoming like a scientist. You're being trained to like be able to work things out, not just like take things at face value, kind of like, oh, this is a problem, this is a problem. So so your first year is about learning about the whole body, so functions of the whole body, like every system in the body, because the whole body affects the mouth. So you need to have some sort of medical understanding of the body.
Yeah.
Then you go into your second year and you learn about head and neck. This is our course that we did in Birmingham. It is different in some of the courses, but we're not even like treating patients at this point. So the second year is about head and neck. So what you learn about is something called craniofacial biology. So what that is it's basically the anatomy of your head and neck, and like literally every vein, every nerve that goes through your head and neck, and you've got to like understand that this part of the body in 3D, and you've got to be able to visualize it and know where it is. Like if I'm putting an injection in your mouth, I need to know where that nerve's going to be and what that's going to provide sensation to, because otherwise I could damage something.
Right.
So you've got to understand this. And also it is like, the idea of it is to make you a safe practitioner, and it's like to give you the basics and then you can specialize from there. So they want to give you the basic knowledge and like give you a taste of almost a taste of everything, because some people are going to go on and do maxillofacial surgery. They're going to become doctors as well and deal with like trauma, like jaws being broken, stuff like that. So or some people are going to be like oral medicine, learning how to treat like certain diseases and like rare things, stuff like that. So that's why they give you all this basic kind of knowledge.
Yep.
Third year is when you start to get into the practical element of it. So you are then focusing more on teeth, so like how teeth work, the oral biology of teeth, like very specifically, like you'll be looking down microscopes and stuff like that. Okay. At the same time, you'll be in clinic, like learning how to clean teeth, how to do fillings. That was kind of like the first bit. And then as you move into like the fourth year, it's like oral pathology, so how things go wrong with your teeth, like decay, or even like diseases that can affect the teeth, and it's just so extensive. It's like the information is like it's not even it's infinite. And again, you're kind of like building up your clinical skills as well. So you're learning from third year, you're still learning about the biology of the mouth and the practical side, but you're also doing that practical element as well, and building up your skills, taking out teeth. You're starting to do all that stuff as well. So, but yeah, it's intense. It's like 8 hours a day, lectures. And then at the end, I remember it was like 8 weeks of 12-hour studying days, trying to get it all in your head.
That's crazy, man.
It was great. Like those last week, like I didn't get a haircut. I just like had this bush in my head, and yeah. And I remember like I did the practical exam, because there's a non-practical and a practical one, which is basically where you have like a patient in front of you, and they've got like a really rare different. You've got to assess them as if you're doing a checkup, and they've got really rare things going on, and you've got to be able to identify it all. I remember afterwards, like I just like broke down, just started crying. I was like just so overwhelmed, like how much effort I'd put in, and it was done. So yeah, but that's kind of the structure of it.
So how did you feel then when you pass? Is it pass fail, or is it actually like a first degree?
It's pass fail and honours. So it wasn't as plain sailing as that for me, to be fair, because again at uni I was a bit of a nuisance, because I was still told that like a lot, especially in the early years at uni, that I didn't look like a dentist, or I kind of stuck out a little bit because I was a bit louder. Like dentistry is quite a nerdy subject, really. I was a bit louder, so I was always getting told off and stuff like that. Because I was unprofessional at times. Looking back, I was being a bit of a kid, and I've obviously grown into it now. But that meant that there was a few things that happened along the way, that meant that it was touch and go where I was going to pass in the end.
Right.
So basically, what happened was, when everyone in the year passes, it's called a white glove year. So what that means is that everyone in the year goes into a room. The head of school pulls out like a white glove, and that means everyone's passed, and everyone obviously celebrates.
Wow. So
before we went into that room, they pulled me into like the head of school office, and they're like, look, like, you were this close, like we weren't going to pass you. We've decided to pass you, but we think you're going to be up in front of the GDC, the General Dental Council, within 5 years. That's what they said to me. And I was like, whatever.
What, like doing,
and that was before we went in the room, so I didn't really get to celebrate.
Wow.
Because I knew.
Shit.
I knew, but it was like, yeah, it was just, they killed it for me. Do you know what I mean?
Wow, that's so shitty. Why what do they mean by that? Like you weren't good enough or something? Is that what they're trying to say? Or
I think they were worried about like my professionalism, which is fair enough. It's fair enough. There's maybe things that I was doing, like going out, still going out the night before clinics or stuff like that I probably shouldn't have been doing.
Right.
But again, just because of like my personality, like people want to put you down.
True.
They do, and they like people that like are on the straight and narrow. Yeah. But I also, even though I was pushing against that, I always like kind of doubted myself. Maybe this isn't for me. And I was never that passionate about dentistry until I got into it. And then that's when I left uni, so that's when I tied the kind of, because I was actually quite good practically, that's when I tied in like my like confidence with the dentistry, and that meant that I accelerated forward, because I wasn't afraid of trying things and doing things, and like doing more complex dentistry and speaking to patients and selling, because of what I've done at KUKA being able to sell treatment. So all these things that came together, and then that took me above.
You know, you reminded me, that's super interesting how that kind of at school and academically, that confidence was maybe misinterpreted as like arrogance, whatever you want to say. Whereas actually in your career, I'm sure compared to your cohort, you're probably more successful, not necessarily just financially, just generally. And that probably is due to that confidence thing. And I remember now talking about selling, we were playing golf. It was years ago now, I can't remember when. And we were playing with someone who works for Cooker, or Cooker, I pronounce it. And you explained to them how to sell something, and I can't remember the approach you gave, but it was something along the lines of, you know, features tell, benefits sell type mentality. As in, like, you know, and it was quite interesting because I never really thought of dentistry as that kind of thing where actually you are obviously selling services, and why this is what, yeah, you were talking about ironically enough, one of the biggest things, of course, dentistry does when it's done well is it gives a person confidence. And you being a confident person, I think that probably embodies that. So it's actually a big benefit to you that you are confident and outgoing, because actually that's actually the person they want to work with, because that's what they want out of it in a way, right?
Yeah, I suppose it's that, like, kind of, yeah, they see that, and I've had all the treatment as well. So practice what you preach, and
True.
you know, if you want, I can give you that confidence. Yeah, I guess what you say. I'm obviously trying to say it without sounding arrogant or anything, but it plays a massive role in getting patients to go ahead, because it's not treatment need anymore. It's wants and desires.
So interesting. That's
Yeah.
interesting. So I did want to come to this actually, and I think it's a good time to ask this question. So given you alluded to it before with your father, that what you do now, and even what you do now compared to what he was doing at the time, we're thinking of doing dentistry like 15 years ago or so, we were saying, is so incredibly different. Can you talk a bit about what it was then to what it is now?
Okay, so just as an intro to that, so when my dad was like first practicing, composite bonding as it's known now, like, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but we can set it with a UV light. So we can instantly set that material. Whereas in the past, they used to have to mix it, and like it was like, and then put it on and wait for it to set. So it would never have been possible to do composite bonding back then.
Oh, okay.
So that's just as a summary. But in terms of how it's changed, so I mean, there's so much that's changed. First of all, the NHS has changed massively. So the NHS dentistry used to be like fee per item. So what that means is, like, if you go to the dentist, whatever you need to have done, the dentist will get paid for. So if you need to have like 3 fillings and a crown, the dentist will get paid for 3 fillings and a crown by the NHS. But this means that there is like an unlimited budget for dentistry. So the government couldn't afford to do that long term. Like they couldn't afford it. Because imagine, like, they'll never know how much
the budget
it's going to need, because you don't know. So what they decided to do was create like a banded system. So if you go in, and whether you need 1 filling or 10 fillings, the dentist gets paid the same.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and obviously, very rarely you're going to need to have one filling. You're going to need to have more than 1 filling. So all of a sudden, you're going from getting paid this amount to maybe half or a third or a quarter.
Wow, that's crazy.
You know, so you're now salaried. So that's what happens. That's what happened with NHS dentistry. And then as I was kind of starting to qualify, Instagram was growing. So Instagram played a big part in dentistry.
Yeah,
because it's very visual.
I've literally written that down about that. Carry on.
Yeah, it's very visual. So, you know, the guys that are doing the guys that are like between their 30s and 40s now, that kind of like are the first generation on Instagram, are kind of like the the revolutionaries in private dentistry, let's say. So they've introduced this idea of like treatment desire. Obviously private dentistry was around, but mainly for like crowns and some white fillings and stuff like that. But as Instagram has progressed, like the quality of like our cameras, like HD television, all of a sudden like teeth become way more important.
That's so interesting.
Remember, let's say 15 years ago, there's no such thing as HD TV. So you wouldn't have been able to see someone's teeth on the screen.
Wow.
Whereas like if you're
So
watching Sky Sports now and Graham Souness comes up, all you see is teeth.
Wow. So interesting.
Yeah, and then obviously it's the same for Instagram and Love Island and all these things. It just becomes more noticeable, and then it starts to sell itself. So yeah, so as people started to recognize that, people started to then take advantage of Instagram and start to post things on there, and start to market themselves on there. And then COVID hit. And COVID was big because everyone was on Zoom all the time. So like there was almost like a false economy where people were starting to see their teeth like on Zoom, because the only time you see your teeth when you talk is when you're on Zoom. Whereas like when you look in the mirror, you'll only get like this and smile. But when you're actually talking, you actually see your teeth way more.
Oh, okay.
So then when we came out of COVID, it went boom again, like
Wow.
even more boom.
Wow.
And everyone wanted to get their teeth done. And then from there, we've kind of seen like the progression of like really luxury dental practices that kind of look like hotels, like what I work in now, and dentistry going from being like I say, a need to now like it more of an experience as well.
Interesting.
So like if you come to Yorkshire Dental Suite where I work now, we create a whole experience for the patient and we make it memorable for them. So from the minute they come in and they see the front of house staff, like the front of house staff will stand up and be like, "Morning, welcome to Yorkshire Dental Suite. Would you like tea or coffee?" Take a seat. They get a welcome pack, which includes like toothpaste, like a water flosser, like all this stuff. Obviously, we've got like incense through the surgery. Like the surgery smells amazing, doesn't smell like a dentist. We've got when they finish their smile makeover, they get flowers. We create a content video for them so they've got memory of what's happened.
Oh, cool.
So like this is kind of like what it's progressed to now, and it's very much a business now, massive industry.
It's interesting because you talked about Instagram, but there's two sides of that, right? There's the actual demand side coming from people posting more on Instagram and seeing quote unquote influencers with good teeth and whatnot. There's that side of it, but then there's the other side of it, which is dentists actually using, which obviously you do extensively, Instagram to promote your work and that kind of thing. Which again, I presume, obviously perpetuates more people wanting things being done, because before there was like you wouldn't know, would you? Well, how would you promote yourself? There wasn't one to really use, was there?
Yeah, I think for an individual, it's really helpful. And actually, like, if it wasn't for Instagram, I wouldn't be working where I am now. And there's something, I suppose, something that I haven't touched on, which is like quite influential in my career, which people probably wouldn't expect. But like, without all the music stuff that I've done, I wouldn't be at the practice that I'm at now.
Talk a bit about that.
So obviously I've always been doing music videos and all that kind of stuff. When I was young, and then I came to just after uni, so you do like a training year where you're kind of transitioning from being a dental student to a fully fledged independent dentist.
Is that what they call a foundation dentist? Is that what that refers
Yeah,
to?
exactly. So during that year, you are you are treating patients on your own.
What
Whereas
was that like, by the way? Because I always like that, ask that question.
so good, just
Like,
like felt like freedom. Because
you
at
didn't,
uni,
you
you
just had
can't.
that confidence. You didn't like the first time you didn't have this kind of like, oh gosh, I'm by myself now. Like you were just confident, like I know what I'm doing. Like I'm gonna do this, no problem.
I think that's where like my dad had a big influence on me because he really like helped me with the basics
Okay.
and like he helped me get really good at the basics because he had like his own tips and tricks and everything um, that helped me. But I also had like mentors that were a few years older than me, so I had good mentors. Um, and but yeah, you go from like having someone over your shoulder checking your every move to like having this freedom to do what you want kind of thing. And at that point, I was quite fearless, so I was like, I'm going to go for it. There were a few things, a few procedures you'd be scared of, like complex things, like a root canal is a complex treatment, like, and you haven't done that many by the time that you become in that position. You might have done like four, you
Wow.
know,
That's
4 or 5. So it's like, yeah. But what actually happened with that was my foundation year. So in the final year, you do like an interview to see where you get ranked between 1 and 1,500 in the country to see which practice you get, which area you're going to work in.
right.
So Manchester was like one of the highest like ranked and one of the hardest to get into. So you have to do really well in this practical test to get in. And it's situational judgment testing, so it's very subjective.
Right.
And I remember like doing it, and came out and I was like, I got that completely wrong, and I ended up coming like 800th out of like 1,200 in the 1,500 in the country. So I got my 15th choice, which was Worcester. So I didn't even know where that was. Like, I had to look on a map. It was like I had to look on. I was like, where the hell is this? So I had to live in Worcester for a year on my
Wow.
own, which was a bit of an experience.
I imagine so.
Have you ever been to
No.
Worcester? It's just a very. I mean, I was living in the city centre, but it's very much like a quiet, quaint place, and for that, because of that, I didn't actually have that many patients compared to some of my other colleagues or my other friends. So what actually ended up happening was, instead of like doing more of like NHS basics, patient would come in, I'd be like, well, can I try some private treatment on you free of charge? Because I had all this time. So I ended up like practicing things that other people weren't doing. And then that kind of gave me a bit of a boost.
It's interesting that you have the mentality to make use of that, whereas a lot of people would just go, oh, this is easy. I'll just like, I'll just work less and you know what I mean, take it easy. But to have the initiative to go like, all right, let's see if I can use this the benefit we've got. Like that, like I think that's a very important thing that you've touched on. That again, a lot of people, same as like look at COVID for most people, right? Like you had so much free time to do things, and yet most people didn't, and then people wonder why they don't progress. You know what I mean? Like it's what you do with that time you have available. And you took advantage of it, whereas I bet most of the people in similar quaint, sleepy-ish places didn't do that. I can almost guarantee that.
Yeah, I suppose again because dentistry was so hard. Like I think some people after uni were like, "I'm going to chill now."
For sure.
But I don't know. I just seem to that. I think that's when I started getting more interested in dentistry, where I had the freedom. I didn't have these lecturers over me saying, "You can't do this, you can't do that. You're not suited to dentistry." I
That's
think
quite
that's
a lot of
when
resilience. It seems like
unleashed.
had to come through. Like a lot of people all on the way from that very first teacher, a biology teacher, through to like university. Like everyone's telling you, no good, you can't do this. Like most people wouldn't be able to continue that. They're just like, mentally just switch off and all right, I'll just do something else then type thing. It's quite a lot to go through.
Yeah, I suppose so. But I think you have to be resilient. You have to be resilient. But it was never. I never. I was always determined. I was always determined. Even as a kid, I never gave up. I never gave up anything, and that was one of my problems. Like I had like, I was kind of like a jack of all trades, master of none. I was doing golf, I was doing kung fu, piano, all this stuff, and I couldn't give any of them up. So then just being average at all of them. And but yeah, but in my foundation year is where like Teach Teeth started, and that was the key for me being at Yorkshire Dental Suite now, because basically what they asked us to do is they wanted us to go into a school and teach kids about oral health, you know, just a normal chat. And me being me, I was like, that's a bit boring.
Who asked you to do this? The university.
So when you move from university into your foundation year, you're then with like a scheme, and we were like in a West Midlands scheme.
Oh, okay.
So like you work like Monday to Thursday, and Friday's a study day. So you'll have like it's amazing. It's an amazing program. Like you're getting like a specialist like coming to teach you like every week.
Wow.
And it's unique to the UK, and it's mega. You know, these people probably charge like 1,500 quid a day, and they're like, oh, maybe more, probably more, and they're like there teaching you.
Wow.
But part of that program was they wanted you to go into a school and teach kids.
Okay.
So I was like, right, I'm going to do something different here. Obviously, I was living in Worcester at the time, so I was on my own, and I had nothing else to do. So I decided to write a song. So I wrote a song to Moana, You're Welcome, by Dwayne Johnston, which was Just Brush 'em. And then I went to this school, and then 300 kids start coming into the assembly hall. And as I'm about to sing to them, I'm like, what have I got myself in for here? Anyway, start singing this song, and all the kids start laughing, and then I'm like, oh my God. In my head, I'm like, oh my God, they're laughing at me. But then I realized they're just getting excited with the fact that I've changed the lyrics for like about teeth. And then at the end, they were all like singing it and clapping, and
wow,
which was cool. And that was a bit of a buzz. And then I was like, right, well, I'm going to do this again. And then I kind of like did the branding for Teach Teeth, started doing a few schools, did like, I think I did like 15 schools. I did a few secondary schools as well, which was a different talk, slightly different. And yeah, kind of like obviously started the Instagram, built up the Instagram, and then when it came to COVID, that's when I started to do like my branding for the aesthetics page. And then I converted that page into the aesthetics page, and then the place that I'm at now found me on there, messaged me, and said, "Do you want to come see us?" And then it kind of just went from there.
Wow. It is.
So that just shows how the singing actually ended up getting me into this practice I'm in now.
Didn't you have like someone else like does something like, is it singing, another dentist like quite big?
Yeah, the singing dentist.
Yeah. Some deal with like this whole thing again, you would be him or something, or like whatever, if I remember.
Oh yeah. So basically, I did like a song, and I can't remember what the lyrics were now. Yeah, it was somebody tell singing dentist that his days are done, he spent it. So, and that just ruffled his feathers, and he did like a big response, which was generalized, but it felt directed at me, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So it kind of, I mean, it was good for me because I'm nothing compared to what he is. He's got like, I don't know, maybe 400,000 followers, something like that.
Wow.
So like there was like beef or whatever. I did a response, but not directly to him, because I thought, you know what, it's not professional. You know, I don't want to.
Yes.
He's got such a big like influence on the dental community, and in the end, I actually ended up seeing him at some dentistry awards. We had a bit of a joke about it, but yeah, because he's actually a really important person in the dental world, because he's like taken dentistry from being something like people are really scared of, like people being scared of dentists. He's made us look made people see the other side of it, us being fun and stuff like that. So it wouldn't have been fair to me to like slate him when he's done so much.
Do you find, like, talking of new v old, like, world dentists, like, is there still like tension between the old school who are like, this is that are still in the game now, like, dentist is to fix things, versus this new school which is like, we're here to like sell desire, need v desire? Do you see that ever at conferences and things?
I don't think we see it so much at conferences. I think it's dying out a bit now, but there was like kind of a bit of a crossroads, whereas you had these like old school keyboard warriors, like kind of slating these younger dentists. But my dad, for example, he loves it. Like, he's amazed by it all, loves the technology, he's always trying new things, and he's like, he's in his 60s now. So I think it's only a very small group of people that kind of see the new school as like negative.
Yeah. Talking of like something probably is a controversial issue in your industry, is people basically dentist tourism, going to Turkey or wherever else they go, and then that must be a huge problem when there's issues and things. What's your general view, or do you have a view on that kind of thing? Is that like a pretty big hot potato in the world of dentistry these days?
Yeah, so I had, like, a year ago, I had a kid that came to see me. He was about 19, and he went on a holiday to Turkey with his mates. His mate was getting his teeth done. He wasn't getting his teeth done. And his mate egged him into doing it.
Okay.
He wasn't even going to do it. Mate egged him to doing it. Had his teeth all drilled to nothing. And he's come in and he's getting like quite bad problems. And, there's literally like nothing you can do, because he's literally got this, he's a young guy, like, he's gone there, he's had it done on the cheap. He's not got the money to like fix that now.
Yes.
He could potentially lose his teeth like in the next 10 to 15 years.
Well, what if they tried to do that, they've done so badly?
So like, I mean, there are good dentists all over the world, but even for me, I don't even know, like, because I'll see some people's teeth that have been done in Turkey. I'm like, oh, that looks nice, and that's actually a good quality job. But then I'll see others, and I'm like, that's not good. And like, I don't even know how you know. Obviously, I think you have to do a lot of research, and it still is a risk. What was your question again? Sorry.
Just like, how does the general dentistry world view it? Is it like a big kind of no-no, like, with the UK is the best place for it? You mentioned the training stuff, whatever. It's better than anywhere else.
Yeah. So I think it's cheaper there for a number of reasons, and it's just, if you get it done well, then you'll be fine. But if you have it done badly and you come back, then you're going to struggle, because I'm not going to want to touch it, because then I'm liable.
Right.
Or but we might have to sometimes, because and if the patient's willing to pay for it, then that's fine. But in Turkey, they seem to be much more destructive in terms of like just mutilating the teeth, rather than like trying to be more conservative where they can.
Right.
So like, that's where composite bonding is good, because you're not drilling the teeth down, you are protecting the teeth as much as you can. Ultimately, we're trying to preserve the health of the teeth where we can, whereas there it seems that they seem to think, well, we're just going to drill the teeth down as much as we can and make it as easier as possible to get the result that we need.
That makes sense.
So that's kind of where it's at the moment with that.
You mentioned something there which is quite interesting about liability. Like, how does that work in your world? Like, I guess you have to have like professional insurance, and like, but what does anything ever arise? Like, does that actually happen as a thing?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's way more common now than it was for my dad back in the day. Like, for my dad, like he never used to have to write any much clinical notes, for example. Whereas now, our clinical notes are so important and are scrutinized massively when we do have an issue, because you will always have an issue. You have issues like once a year, twice a year. You've not done anything wrong. Patients will try and sue you. They will try and get money off you. And
What's the
that
general
kind of
thing that you've done not a good job and now got toothache, or it's not, doesn't look right, or what's the general reason?
So there can be lots of different reasons why patients sue. They might have had some pain, or it might not look as perfect as they want it to because they've got higher expectations than they should have had. What can be achieved, because some people want to look like Margot Robbie, but everyone's teeth and facial structure and everything's different. So you could encounter a problem like that.
Oh, okay.
And that's the other side now, that we're in a world where people have much higher expectations because of social media and because of all this stuff. So people are expecting better, and you just have to accept that, because it's worth it for the world that we live in now. Where as dentists, where we can do this kind of fun dentistry. Yes, the other side of it is you are going to get headaches sometimes where patients aren't happy and they're going to sue you, but we are insured at the end of the day, and we obviously we stick to the book and the rules, and we don't do anything illegal. Just things can happen, and things patients sometimes won't be happy, and that's when the insurance comes in and they'll cover it. And the insurance is expensive for that reason.
So what kind of going forward? So one thing I've touched on your teach teeth, you did bring a book out, Dr. Phil's Adventures. Was that again in lockdown? Like, I've got some time on my hands. Let's do something different. Was that what that kind of came out?
Yeah, I wanted to create something tangible for people that were following me, but I don't think I realized how hard it is to promote a book.
Right.
Promoting a book is so hard, especially if you don't have a platform and a really strong brand already.
Yeah.
So it was really cool because, again, I think people they gained some trust in me, and it was good for patients that come in, even patients that come and see me now. I just give the kids one of the books now.
Yeah, that's cool.
But it will definitely be something that I come back to. Right now, I'm kind of full time with dentistry, but I'm hoping to eventually have a practice. And then if I'm doing less days clinical, then it's definitely still a passion for me and something that's untapped. Even if it is just voluntary, I would like to try and grow the brand to the point where it's actually has some influence, and in terms of its education in the UK and stuff like that. That would be an eventual aim for me.
Going on to future things, what kind of, because there's something interesting in dentistry that I don't think occurs in many other professions, which is this kind of continuous development. There's new advances happening and things. Are things like artificial intelligence coming into play? What's the kind of future look like for dentistry?
Yeah, so I think artificial intelligence is a little bit untouched. It scares me a little bit, the idea of a robot doing a filling. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Especially because last night I saw a video of a Tesla, which was in autopilot, just stopped dead on the motorway and then caused a massive crash. I don't know if you've seen anything like that. So
I have got a Tesla there, unfortunately.
Yeah, you haven't.
I have.
Yeah, well, autopilot's not legal. The semi-auto is, but the autopilot's not legal here. But I think that was on fully auto.
Right.
It just emergency stops. So I don't know, I dread to think, if something went wrong with a robot. But yeah, AI has not touched dentistry at all yet.
Okay.
It's not from what I've seen. I'm sure if I go to a conference next year, I'll see something.
Yes.
But some of the stuff that we will start to see is so there's machines that can scan your face. So imagine you scan your face, you can do a scan of your teeth, you take an X-ray, and you can make like a 3D virtual patient, and you can do planning on that, and you'll be able to show a patient. And like all these tools that we have now, these visual tools, again, are a huge selling element, but only because it's just educational. Like the patient can now see and understand what we're doing.
Yeah.
So I think the idea of like a virtual patient is like here right now. But again, all this stuff is like in its infant years. So I think that's kind of like the future.
I think the whole throughout this whole kind of chat, like the thing that's stuck. I mentioned it before when we were talking about like how I kind of go about these things. Like the thread that I've seen the whole time is that you've faced adversity, you faced people telling you can't do things, and you've used the confidence and initiative. Like when you've had downtime in Worcester, or downtime in COVID, you've always used that to do and perpetuate things. And that to me sings through. And I guess on that kind of note, like if someone's trying to, I guess not just dentistry, but in general, someone's like come up against adversity, whether the parents telling them it's not something they should go down, or I don't know, that being told they're not good enough at something, like what's your advice to them to like be returned? How do they kind of get some of what you've got, which is kind of, you know?
I think the difficult thing now, especially with social media and stuff, is like everyone cares about what other people think. So and like I feel that as well. Like if I'm about to post a video about me singing about teeth, like I'll still think like I know some people are going to be like, what the hell is this? So but like at the same time, I think you have to do the things that you're scared to do sometimes and ignore what other people are going to think. Because if you want to do something that matters and that's going to make a difference, then you're going to potentially upset a few people, and you might be the first person to do it. So don't be afraid to be that person.
I think that's a pretty good note to leave on. I mean, it's been super interesting. I always love, as I say, where you think to yourself, oh, I'm gonna chat to a dentist. Where's this conversation going to go? But like, it does. It's so interesting to me to like to understand like and see how again you've like time and time again people told you can't do things, you're not good enough, or you're too confident, or your personality hold you back. In actual fact, it's done the total opposite. And in all those periods, which is super interesting to me, where you've had the ability to just down tools and relax, you've gone, no, I'm going to use this time. I'm going to use this gift that I've got of COVID or whatever else, whatever the situation is, I'm going to make the best of it, and it all in the general direction of travel of progressing your career. I think that's a lot to be said for that. Honestly, it's great, really interesting.
No, I appreciate that. It's definitely been interesting to reflect on it and look at it, because sometimes you just think, well, especially with my mindset, I think I've not done anything yet. I've not even started. You know what I mean?
Right,
But
for
it's
sure.
good to look at it in that way.
But it's true. I was chatting to a friend of mine the other day, and he had this mentality, which I think a lot of us do in this day and age, or also maybe people aligned like me and you that are clearly pretty ambitious. And you're like, I want to do everything now and whatever else. And he was the same and got himself super ill. And then he thought to himself, or maybe someone like helped him out with this. And it's like, hold on a minute, I need to be doing something that I'm enjoying for the next 30 years plus potentially. So
Yeah.
like look at it like that, you know what I mean? You're literally just starting. Like you've got another 30 years to like grow into it, to develop professionally, all the rest of it. So looks to me like you're doing pretty well so far, right?
Yeah, really enjoying it. Feel like I'm just following the path of least resistance, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like I'm just literally going with the flow. Like at the same time, like trying to make a difference where where I want to, and still focus on some goals. Um, but yeah, I'm excited for what the future holds. Potentially next year is going to be an
Yeah, you
interesting.
said 2024. Can you share any of those plans and what you're thinking of, or is it still kind of at infancy stages?
Not just yet.
Okay.
But yeah, hopefully, I think when it comes about, like I say, I want to make some noise with it. So
Nice.
uh,
All right. Well, we'll leave the conversation there. I look forward to maybe interviewing again when whatever you're doing next kind of is out in the wild. Thank you very much for your time. It's been honestly super interesting. as these things always are. They turn out like so interesting, even though the range of people I speak to is always very diverse. Similar themes seem to come through every time of people
Yeah.
are doing things ambitious and whatever else. And again, it's that resilience. It's like utilizing what you have against what you don't have, and like, you know what I mean, like just leaning into your personality to progress your career rather than trying to fit yourself in the box of this is what a dentist should be, therefore I shouldn't do this, I should do this, and all the rest of it.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, dude. Thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it, dude.
Nice. Thanks very much.
Oh, hold on. Press the wrong. It'd be good if I pressed the right button, wouldn't it?